All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining the Viz for Social Good Summit. That was such an amazing video, inspiring. And I'm Benita Lucas, based in Toronto, so it's a very good morning for me. I just had my coffee, but I'm sure many of you joining from around the world are either having a tea break, lunch, or in your PJs getting ready for bed. So really appreciate all of you joining us. So welcome everyone. I'm just so amazed. I've been with Biz for Social Good for about 5 years now, and it never ceases to amaze me the amount of effort and dedication that people have. And that's including the board team, our committee, and all of the volunteers. And I just wanted to start this session by saying a heartfelt thank you to all of you and to our charity partners. Biz for Social Good has just grown amazingly over the last few years. It's probably one of my most favorite things, and it's something that's on my mind every single day. One of my favorite quotes is about volunteering, and I love this quote because volunteers do not necessarily have the time; they have the heart, and that speaks to everyone on the team and all our volunteers because we know you have busy lives, you have a lot going on, your day job, studies, or whatever. Yet you still find that time and the heart and compassion to volunteer and get involved with Biz for Social Good. So thank you so much for everything you have done. As I mentioned, we've been around for the last 5, 6 years. It started off as a community, but really our mission is to help society. And we have a fantastic community of volunteers that help mission-driven organizations create social change. I have been focused so much lately on how to use data for a better world, and there's such a whole world out there. And so we want to make sure that everyone benefits from the use of data and data visualization. And something unique about our organization is we bridge data enthusiasts with mission organizations. And so when I think about the stakeholders, it's many, right? There is obviously the community and the people that were out there helping through our charities. It's our charities, but it's also our volunteers who have been doing an amazing job over the last few years, just helping out with all the different causes. And I have to say, over the years, our presence is just growing. It's incredible. People just seem to have heard about Viz for Social Good. It's not where I would say, oh, have you heard about Viz for Social Good? Because yes, they have. Every year at the Tableau conference, we do have a presence. This past year, I was actually very jealous. If you see the picture in the top left-hand corner, we have some of our committee members, but also our volunteers who somehow managed to get together and meet for the first time in person in real life. We've also had the opportunity and been invited to present at many conferences. So the World Tour in Israel, we had participated in a Data Viz competition, presented at the Big Data and Analytics Canada. Recently, there was the Festival de Datos in Uruguay where we were invited to present. And our name continues to appear on many blogs, articles. People are, tagging us, and we continue to be, presenting at all the various Tableau user groups around the world, and really helping our data fans advance their skills as well, but volunteer at the same time. So I think it's just a testament to really see how well this organization has grown over the years. I wanted to call out one partnership, the Global Partnership for Sustainable Development Data. They are an amazing network of over 800 organizations, and these could be government agencies, humanitarian organizations, but their focus is really to leverage data to promote sustainable development goals, improve policy making, and really help those around the world. Personally, I've been in data and analytics my entire career, over 2 decades, but always worked for for-profit organizations. And when you think about data in those organizations, they think about it in a totally different way. And when you think about how data is used in the social sector, while all the common principles may apply and practices, how you look at data and treat it is just completely different. And I wanted to share some trends that are happening right now in the social sector space. I know many of you joining today are more on that data visualization and storytelling side, but if you think about the whole data lifecycle, there's many things that need to be considered. So when we think about inclusive data, what does that really mean? It means making sure that through the data collection process, you are empowering and getting information about those marginalized, right? So, and you want to make sure inclusive data collection and analysis is happening for everybody. I mean, how can you help people if you don't know anything about them or that they exist? So that nobody gets left behind when it comes to, inclusive data. When we are doing data visualization, we visualize the data that we have, but think about all the data that hasn't, been surfaced, or information about people that, we don't know about. How can you tell those stories? And so there's a lot of focus on making sure that the data is inclusive. The second theme is around disaggregated data. For those of you who have been in the data industry, I think you tend to think about, well, we need to aggregate our data because, it helps to make it smaller and perform better. But actually, disaggregate it is so important because that's where you really start understanding the characteristics of people. How many of you have received a survey and, you see all the different tick boxes and there's one that says other. And I know I've reluctantly had to check box the other because I didn't fit in the other ones. And so think about all that information about people you don't know because you're kind of looking at it more aggregate level. So when you disaggregate the data, it really reveals that inequalities. And aggregate data always also masks some of those inequalities. So more and more think about as you start, if you're looking at data, collecting data, is it disaggregated? Does it have the information to capture about all the people? Third, governance, and it's a topic everywhere. But again, when you think about governance from an social sector side, it's again, you really want to make sure that you are protecting those and empowering the people with, through privacy, bias mitigation, and really making sure it's transparent. And lastly, why we're all here, there is still a huge need for data visualization and storytelling. I was recently in Uruguay presenting at the Festival de Datos, and the amount of people that came up to me and said, wow, like our organization could really use data visualization. We have so many stats and numbers. But it's not just about the visualization. I think we all know now that it's about how you tell that story. It's about how you advocate for the data and for the mission. So some really interesting themes. So if you are, interested in looking more into the data for social sector, there's a lot that you can learn. Okay, so that's the end of my keynote. I am so excited to introduce to you Sarah Bartlett. Sarah, I know you and I haven't personally met, but I've seen you on social media, and you're such a presence to the data fam and the community. So it's such an honor to welcome you to our summit. And I'm going to just let you introduce yourself because I don't think I'll do justice introducing you. So I am going to, everyone, this is Sarah Bartlett. She's just amazing. I'm so excited to have her speak. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And
thank you so much, Vanitha. Hopefully you can see my screen, my slides.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So today I'm going to be talking about passion projects and building skills and making impact. So but before I begin, I just want to say thank you for inviting me here today. I really appreciate it. I've been following Viz for Social Good since it began, and I'm going to tell you a story. So today's going to be a little bit like a history lesson around how Viz for Social Good began and how I first got involved. But it's a real honor to be here today, and I'm really excited to see the other presentations as well. So a little bit about me. I am a BI enablement director at JLL. I joined there about a month ago, so it's still a very, very new role for me. I'm also a 4-time Tableau visionary, a 6-time Tableau public ambassador, and I've just got my new sweatshirt on today, which I'm sure some other ambassadors on the call have as well. I'm a co-leader of the London Tableau user group, and I'm also the founder of a community project called IronQuest, which is modeled on the IronViz competition. So if you want to reach out to me, you can find me on social media. I'm pretty much everywhere as Sarah Loves Data. So you can find me on X or Twitter. And I also have a blog, which is sarahlovesdata.co.uk. Now, my journey began with Tableau probably around, it's coming up to like 9 years ago, so quite a long time ago. And over that time, I built out a lot of visualizations on Tableau Public on every topic you can possibly imagine. But one thing that's dear to my heart are topics on social issues and the types of topics that we cover for this for social good. Now, these are some of the visualizations that I've done over the years. But when I first started out, I was brand new to data visualization. I really didn't know what I was doing, and I really used Tableau and Tableau Public as a playground to try out new techniques and just improve my skills. Now, in I think it was 2016, I attended the Tableau conference. Believe it was in Austin, Texas. It was my first ever Tableau conference. And at that conference, I was inspired by Chloe. So Chloe was the founder of Viz for Social Good, and she got up in a session called Fanalytics, I think it was, just to talk about this idea she had for a community project. At this point, I don't even know if it had a name, but she was just talking about how we could visualize and use our skills to visualize data for social good. Now, after the conference, I was inspired to create a visualization on a social issue, and I really wanted an opportunity to try and gather some data myself, because at this point, I've been heavily reliant on social projects, like things like Make of a Monday, where they provide you with a clean data set to begin with. And I wanted to challenge myself to actually find some data myself and clean it and then visualize that topic. And I really wanted this to be on a social issue. But at that point, I was struggling to find anything that could work. Now, I do want to say that for the next 5 minutes or so, I'm going to be talking about suicide, and I appreciate this is a sensitive topic. So if this is something that you find difficult, I suggest stepping away for the next few minutes while I cover this. And I'm sorry it's not a nice topic to begin with. But in 2016, I was driving home from work one day whilst listening to the radio. And one of the headlines on the radio, on the news, mentioned the alarming rise of suicide rates in UK prisons. Now, while the news report didn't go into a lot of detail, I was really curious to learn more about the headline and learn more about the underlying data behind it, because the article or the news report on the radio was just a few minutes long, and it didn't really provide me much context. And being a data person, I was really curious to learn more. So when I got home, I did some Googling, and that led me to this website, which is the Howard League for Penal Reform. So this is an organization that look at reducing the number of people in prisons in the UK, but also improving safety and safety in the communities in those prisons. Now, they published this article that said that 2016 was the worst year ever recorded for suicides in prisons in the UK. And there was some context around that in this article. And at the bottom of this article, there was a table of data, and I've shown you at a screenshot there, that but it was just, there was no visualizations. It was purely just a long table of data without any kind of what we would call pre-attentive attributes in the data world. And I thought, this might be a good opportunity for me to visualize something, but also learn more about the topic. And certainly this data wasn't enough for me to build a visualization with, but it was a good starting point. And from here, I was able to do some more research and gather some more data to actually build, I guess, what they call like a compelling infographic on this topic. Now, I will say that if I was to approach this today, I would do it completely differently. Since this point, I've learned a lot about data visualization, but also a lot about how we visualize data about people. Now, I would recommend checking out the Do No Harm guide by the Urban Institute, and I can provide a link at the end to that, which is a really great guide that talks about how we can effectively and safely visualize data about people. Because so often we forget that there's, for every stat about a person, there's people behind those numbers. And I think you touched on that in the keynote just now, but often when we aggregate those numbers, we forget that there's people behind each of those data points. And for that reason, I would approach this viz differently if I was to do it today. But anyway, this was the viz that I came up with. It's a long form viz. This is just the top part of it. If you want to have a look, it's on my Tableau Public profile. But for this viz, I wanted to have a look at not only the rise in the suicide rates, but also the rise in the prison population, because I wanted to understand, is it because the prison population is rising that the suicide rates are rising? And I also wanted to understand more about the gender behind these people, and also the prisons themselves, and if there were any particular prisons that stood out. So there's some interactive elements in this viz. You can find a prison and kind of have a look at that data at the prison level. But the table on the side is essential, the heat map, sorry, on the side is essentially the table that you saw from the Howard League website visualized. Now I published this to my Tableau public profile. I also published it on, or shared it on Twitter, just to, as I always do with all my visualizations. And then I thought, I saw the Howard League had a Twitter account. So I thought I'd tweet them and say, hey, you know, I visualized some data for you, not expecting anything to come of this. And they actually reached out to me on DM and said that thanked me for building my visualization and asked if they could actually feature it on their website. And I was completely taken aback by this. I wasn't expecting anything to come of this visualization. I had a little conversation with the person from the Howard League, and they actually ended up embedding it on their website. And not only that, but Chloe, the founder of Viz for Social Good, actually shared this viz in a couple of presentations. That year she came to present at the London Tableau user group, which I lead. And she shared this viz as one of kind of the first kind of Viz for Social Good entries, although obviously it wasn't. But it was a really nice way for me to get introduced to the project and the concept of visualizing data for social good. And as I'm sure many of you are aware, Viz for Social Good started in January 2017. And in the first year or so, it's made an incredible impact on the world of data visualization. I remember just at the time seeing all these amazing visualizations come in. And not only was it great to see the impact that they were having, but it was also great to see the growth of the people behind them and their authors, and just seeing how people were using it as a way to really showcase their skills. And these visits that led to opportunities where people got to maybe present to the United Nations and other things like that just wouldn't have happened otherwise if it wasn't for the project. So today I'm just going to talk you through my journey. I want to do a community spotlight on 2 community members with completely different backgrounds, talk about their journeys as well. And I'm also going to talk about community projects that can help you in addition to Viz for Social Good, just to practice your skills and build out your data visualization portfolio. And then before we go, I'm going to offer some advice at the end so you can take that with you and begin your journey or continue your journey if you're already taking part. So in terms of my Viz for Social Good journey, my journey began in July 2017. So I was around that time, I was in London, and I was excited to hear that Data Plus Women London, which is a meetup group, were going to be running a live Viz for Social Good event. So I was really excited to see that Data Plus Women and one of my favorite projects, Viz for Social Good, were coming together. Now, up until this point, I had a busy year and I hadn't had the opportunity to take part in Viz for Social Good. So I'd very much been a silent observer, if you like. So I was really excited that this was going to be my first project. Now, the charity selected for this project was the Central Asia Institute, which is a charity that seeks to provide education to those in need, particularly women in Central Asia. So at the time, CAI ran 4 tent schools in Afghanistan for over 4,000 children who otherwise wouldn't be able to attend school. However, as the number of people returning to Afghanistan was increasing, the existing tent schools simply couldn't cope with the ever-increasing demand. Now, CAI had submitted a proposal which would enable them to fund a further 45 tent schools, providing the opportunity for education to over 5,000 children, but they needed $66,000 to do so. So that would cover the cost of maintenance and materials, etc. So this is where Viz for Social Good came in, because they had they saw that they needed visualizations to really promote their message and get the funding that they needed. And at the end of this project, CAI actually selected visualizations that have been submitted to share on social media, in their magazine, and on their website to help raise awareness of their new campaign and ultimately help them to raise those much needed funds. So when I was participating in this project, I did a lot of background reading, as I do on most of my data visualization projects, but I was really intrigued by this subject. I wanted to do it justice. You know, it was something that was new to me, and I thought it was very important that I did that reading to really upskill and understand the issues behind what they were trying to resolve. So eventually it got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to start researching now and actually get into the data. And within my within the submission to Viz for Social Good, CAI provided a kind of a participant pack, and in that pack was a style guide. So that I personally am a sucker for following the rules, so I found that very useful. And in that style guide, they provided a color palette, which was primarily green, blue, yellow, and pink. And so I tried to mimic that style in my visualization. And I also knew that this visualization was going to need a lot of text to provide that context about the initiative. So I chose to keep the graphs separate. So you'll see that those are in at a glance section in the left-hand side. And I think just this overall design gives a more magazine-like feel, which I felt would be good for this organization if this visualization was going to be published in a magazine. So I had a great experience with this project. And I think that just really got the ball rolling for me, because a couple of months later, I participated in another Viz for Social Good. So this one was the African Youth Mentorship Network, so AMIN, which aims to inspire, develop and empower African youths through education and mentorship programs to be emotionally intelligent, socially responsible and self-confident citizens. So they shared some really interesting statistics. For instance, around 3 in 5 African children grow up without supportive fathers. And AMIN are really on a mission to change that by providing mentorship programs, so pairing children with male mentors that can act like father figures. So again, I learned a lot by participating in this project. I did a lot of research around the topic, and I had a lot of fun putting together a infographic-like style design. Then in December 2017, so I'm really on a roll here, I did a visualization for Business Social Good for the United Nations, specifically focusing on Papua New Guinea, and having a look at social development goals set by the UN, and how Papua New Guinea were performing against those goals. Now, this visualization is more of a kind of a reporting pack. So I've screenshot like the first page here, but for each of these sustainable development goals, they're individual visuals that I've published within this pack, so you can see how Papua New Guinea are performing compared to other countries. Now, I learned a lot about the SDGs as part of this visualization, but also a lot about Papua New Guinea that I didn't already know. And again, it was a great opportunity for me to practice those skills. Now, my favorite project of all that for Viz for Social Good was in February 2018, which was for Tomorrow Today, Papa Biden. So this was an initiative led by a man called Papa Cal Biden, who's based in London. He's a social entrepreneur, activist, author, a public speaker, and a corporate social responsibility consultant. So Papa had previously worked for Nando's, which I'm sure some of you are aware is a chicken restaurant chain in the UK and further afield as well. So he'd worked there for a while, and he made his way up from part-time cashier to actually go and work on the sustainability team at the head office. And while he was working at Nando's, he recognized there was an opportunity for the excess food from the restaurants to be donated to those in need. I think he was frustrated by the fact that they were throwing away so much wasted food, and it could actually go to people that perhaps were homeless or couldn't afford food themselves. And he came to discover that there was few programs in place that would facilitate such an initiative, and especially one at a national level. So there might be local initiatives happening, particularly in cities, but at the national UK level, there was nothing like that in place. So he helped to connect Nando's with a charity in West London that would help accept food donations from the restaurants. And it was through this interaction and his personal experiences that sparked Papa's interest in homelessness. So in 2017, he published a book called In Our Hands, which sought to challenge the way we see homelessness. And then he developed or launched an organization called Tomorrow Today, which had the sole purpose of really delivering on those topics he covered in his book. He wanted to raise awareness about the issues of homelessness through visualizations that could be shared on social media. So he didn't have a data background, but he knew the data was out there. He needed someone to visualize it, which is where Viz for Social Good came in. So for this project, he shared 3 key data sets. So he shared one on the official rough sleeper statistics, which were provided by the UK government. He had some statistics on vacant dwellings in England and rough sleep accounts published by an organization called Chain. Now, when I looked at this data, you could clearly see there was a stark difference between the data published by the government on the number of homeless people and then the data collected by Chain. And there's a whole kind of reason behind that, but it was really fascinating to look at this, and particularly when it was an issue close to home. So I mean, I live near London, and just looking at places where I live and knowing firsthand some of these issues, it was really interesting to work on this data and put this project together. Now, after I submitted this viz, I had the opportunity to chat with Papa, and he was really so thankful for the work that the participants had put in from Viz for Social Good. Like we really filled that need that he wanted. Like he wanted the ability to take this data, to visualize it, and then share it out with the world, and then kind of really shed light on these issues that were otherwise being kind of covered up by the government in the UK. So it was just a really, really rewarding experience, and one that I enjoyed a lot. So, you know, I had a lot of fun participating in these projects. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about people in the world, different people, different organizations, different experiences, and I learned a lot about my data visualization as well. It was the opportunity to improve my skills. Now, that's my story. There's plenty of other people in the community that are also doing great work. So I want to showcase two people who both come from very different backgrounds. One of them is on the call, I think. So, but I'm going to kick off talking about Zainab Ayodimeji. So Zainab, also known as Zizi, is originally from Nigeria, but she now lives in the UK. She actually co-leads the London Tableau user group with me. Now, Zainab's background is in engineering. So she's got a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in engineering. However, it was during her master's that she found a passion for data, leading her to pivot into analytics. And that's where she discovered tools like Python, SQL, and data visualization. So I actually met Zainab virtually in around 2020 at a virtual data viz user group hosted by Abby Oni in Nigeria. So Abby is a Tableau visionary based out of Lagos. And she'd invited me to come along to this session to present a topic and also provide some feedback on some Makeover Monday submissions that she'd set for attendees. So Zainab was one of those participants and she shared a viz and Abby and I provided some feedback on it. And that was kind of my first interaction ever with Zainab. But she's come a long, long way since then. So she now works as a data scientist at Spotify, where she applies analytics, statistics, and data visualization to solving business problems. And before Spotify, she worked in other sectors, including consulting, energy, and fintech. Now, data visualization is a critical skill for Zainab as a data scientist, as you can imagine. And as such, she's been involved in data viz for almost the entirety of her data career, which is roughly 6 years. And she's done everything from building out simple Excel charts to Python plots, and more recently, creating comprehensive dashboards in Tableau. Now, some of you may already know Zainab. She's very active in the Tableau community. She's always tweeting. And it was through Twitter that she discovered Viz for Social Good. So she recalls seeing visualizations from the community with the hashtag Viz for Social Good or VSFG. And they were mostly social topics that she connected with. So she decided to have a look into it and give it a go. She volunteered for the Sunny Street initiative in 2022. So Sunny Street is an Australian healthcare outreach, and they provide healthcare services to the most vulnerable people in their community. And for this project, they needed participants to clearly articulate their social impact to stakeholders, collaborators, and potential sponsors and funding sources. So they really wanted to showcase their work and the value that they're adding to their community. So if we have a closer look at Zainab's submission, because it's long form, here it is in more detail. I think you agree, it's a very beautifully designed visual. So Zainab, for this project, participants had the opportunity to communicate directly with founders through Slack, which allowed them to develop deeper insights about their mission and their data. And Zainab really said that was really helpful for helping her understand the topic and the data, and asking any questions that she needed to along the way. And then she mentioned that in her post-submission Q&A with Sunny Street volunteers, it really added that perspective and the significance that this would have for them as an organization. And I think this, Zainab took a lot away from this, and she really saw that there was a big social media buzz created when people shared their projects online. And at the end of this, Zainab was actually nominated for a Viz of the Day on the back of her submission. So she said to me, I asked her to provide a few words for this, but she said that participating in a Viz for Social Good project was truly rewarding and enlightening for her. And she said that one thing that stood out to her whilst doing this project was the Slack channel and the way that really helped have that connection with the organization directly. Now, another person I want to highlight today is Victor Minos, who's on this call, I think. So Victor, I'm going to be talking all about you for the next few minutes. But as a control engineer with a master's degree in analytics, Victor worked as an information security analyst for a financial company in Colombia. And for the last 2 years in the company, he was responsible for risk analytics, access management, and fraud prevention. However, earlier this year, he decided to leave his job to find a career that would complement all aspects of his well-being and allow him to pursue his true passions. And his journey with data visualization began as a period of self-discovery. He started to travel abroad, and while in Mexico, he met some people who recognized his artistic potential and introduced him to the world of data visualization and information design. So he started reading one of my favorite books, which is Storytelling with Data by Cole Nussbaumer-Knaflic, and decided to explore Tableau as a platform for creating data visualization projects. Now, it amazes me that Victor, at this point, has never used Tableau Desktop. So for anyone that uses Tableau, that's quite rare. I think most of us start with desktop and then move on to something else. But Victor has done all of his work through Tableau Public and the free platform that it provides. Now, Victor discovered through this process the Data Visualization Society, or the DVS, and their mentorship program. And again, I can share links to that. And it's a great community of data visualization practitioners across all tools that really come together and talk about data visualization topics, but they also have a mentorship program. Now, it's worth noting that at this point, Victor is only 6 months into his data visualization journey, and he's already achieved what I think is a lot. So he's participated in 2 Viz for Social Good projects, which I'm going to talk through. So the first one of these is a project for CEPEI. Now, Victor was introduced to Viz for Social Good through Community Datos, which is a Spanish-speaking community group led out of Latin America. So Diego Parker, who's a Tableau visionary, and he's involved in the Community Datos group, approached Victor to ask him to join one of their sessions. And during that session, Pablo Gomez, who's originally from Argentina, he's now based in London, we actually lead London Tug together. He mentioned during his presentation that the Viz for Social Good's next project would be a collaboration with a company based in Latin America. So he encouraged everyone to participate. So after that session, Victor researched Viz for Social Good and became really, really interested and decided to give it a go. So for context, CEPEI is a think tank that works to improve political processes at the highest level of governance. Their goal is to help governments and their partners achieve their UN Sustainable Development Goals. And they've created a methodology to measure the quality of voluntary national reviews, VNRs, which is what Victor's Viz focuses on. So for this project, Victor decided his experience, Victor has described his experience as amazing. He's had a truly amazing time, and he has a blog post, which I highly recommend you check out. And I've included the link on this slide because it goes through in detail not only his process for building this visualization, but everything that's come off the back of it. So he's not only did this visualization and the process of building it help him to learn and apply numerous new skills, this was also his first ever business dashboard. So it was a good opportunity to apply his visualization skills in a less artistic way, but a more one focus on how you'd approach data in business. He also learned lots of Tableau technical techniques such as level of detail expressions, table calculations, and also how to model data for visualization. And since submitting this Viz, he's been able to present his work with Viz for Social Good, and he's also presented his work directly to CEPEI. And following that, CEPEI actually contacted him directly to make some changes to the visualization, just to make it more responsive on the web, and they're planning on publishing it on their website. And so for his second project, he's created a visual representation of data using physical objects. So this was the most recent Viz for Social Good project, I believe, which was about visualization. So I can't say this. Looking at data in the physical world, basically. So instead of visualizing data in a tool, as we often do on a computer, this was all about gathering data and actually visualizing it using physical objects. So it's a really different skill, I think, to what we use day to day when we work with these tools. And for this project, Victor decided to give it a go, and he created a heat map of global temperatures using leaves. So he has a great video and GIF on his Twitter profile about what he did there. And hopefully this has been playing as well. I'll set play again, but really great way of just taking a different approach to data and trying out new things. And Victor shared a few words with me before this talk, but really, I think this is a key bit that stood out to me. So he mentioned that the openness of the community accelerated his learning journey. And his favorite aspect of the data visualization community is its responsiveness and willingness to offer support. And during his first project for Viz for Social Good, he received help from different people and places. And I want to showcase this because it really shows, I think, when we do these projects, it's not only the project that's helping us, but it's the people and different projects and the support of other people in the community that help us along the way. So for his first project for Viz for Social Good, he leaned on Viz Office Hours, which is an initiative run by Michelle Freeman and Nicole Klassen, I think is on this call. So they help provide feedback on visualizations, and that's a weekly initiative. Anyone could come along. And if you want to get involved, I suggest searching that hashtag on Twitter or on LinkedIn. But he joined one of their sessions where they helped provide him with some feedback on the functionality and usability of his Viz. He also took part in my project, which is IronQuest, and through that project, he was introduced to a dashboard by Priya Padham, who's a Tableau visionary and ambassador, and he used that as a base for developing his first business dashboard. He also leaned on some blogs from the data fam to learn new data visualization techniques. And then Satoshi, who I think is also on this call, he's from Japan, invited him to present a Viz for Social Good visualization, to present his visualization to the Japanese community. So that gave him the opportunity to practice his presentation skills. So you can really see that he was able to develop skills not just in data visualization, but also in gathering data, presenting data, and then presenting it in a presentation form. So I think that's really powerful. And I think a lot of people that have participated in projects like this for social good can share similar experiences. Now, as you've seen from my journey and from the journey of others, we've leaned on different community projects along the way, in addition to Viz for Social Good, to help improve our skills, practice our skills, and also connect us with other people. Now, you might be wondering, where do I get started? Like, how can I get involved in these projects? Now, I will say there are a ton of projects out there. Hopefully, I've captured most of them all here. Some of these are Tableau specific, some of them are tool agnostic. We've got Tidy Tuesday in there, which is a project for our users. And even though some of these might have been founded by the Tableau community, they can be applied to any data visualization tools. And most of these will run on a weekly or monthly basis, but we also have projects such as the 30-day map challenge, which runs for an entire month. So this just ended yesterday, so it ran for the entirety of November, and they share prompts every day of the month where the idea is you go away and build a map using that prompt. So lots of different projects here that you can choose from. I will share a link where you can find details of all of these, or alternatively, I would recommend searching their hashtags on social media, where you likely find details on how to participate. But I want to emphasize here, there really is something for everyone. So if you're interested in music, video games, comics, sports, looking at data about diversity, obviously doing social good, any of those things, you'll find something here for you. Now, it can be overwhelming, and I would say don't try and participate in everything, but really just, I would say, try and pick a variety of projects. So maybe pick some projects that are very quick to do, that maybe you could do in an hour. So something like a Make of a Monday, and then complement that with a project that's going to take you a bit longer and it may require more work. And I think that balance is really good because you tend to learn different things with each of those approaches. Now, you may be wondering, why get involved? So I wanted to include this statement from Zainab. So she said that discovering the Tableau community was a game changer for me. I took part in Make of a Monday, and the single choice greatly improved my career. For about 4 months, I committed to it weekly, which dramatically improved my Tableau abilities from basic to advanced. It also allowed me to connect with numerous members of the community, earn recognition as a Tableau ambassador, and have my work featured in many places and publications. And I think many of us, again, would echo that statement. I certainly would. I think Victor would as well. You've seen how just participating in that project allowed him to go on and have his work showcased and then present like a user group in Japan, like really great opportunities that have come off the back of participating in these projects. So just some more guidance on where to start. So if you want to improve your skills with, let's say, data visualization techniques, I'd recommend having a look at Back to Viz Basics. This is where they often share a prompt. So it might be, build the very best line chart that you can. And you can use any tool for this. Although it was founded by the Tableau community, it doesn't need to be a Tableau project. You can still take those prompts and apply them in a different tool. And that's a bi-weekly project, so it happens like twice a month. You might want to improve your skills with engaging with audiences, and that's where storytelling with data, or hashtag SWD challenge, comes in. And they have a fantastic community led by Cole Nussbaum and Affleck. So if you check out storytellingwithdata.com, you'll find all the resources on there, but it's a really, really great resource for just learning how to present data effectively. If you want to learn more about preparing data and practice challenges related to that, you can check out Prepping Data. Now, this was founded with Tableau Prep in mind, but the challenges can be applied to other preparation tools as well. So if you want to maybe practice coding and preparing data using code, this is a great challenge for you to check out. And then if perhaps you're a Tableau person and you want to improve your technical builds, I'd recommend checking out Workout Wednesday. So this is a weekly project that allows you to practice your Tableau skills and learn some more technical techniques behind the visualizations. So finally, my advice to you before I go would be to not to participate in everything. Like I said at the beginning, I used to try and do this. I'd try and take on all the projects, and then effectively I wouldn't get anything done. I'd end up with lots of half-finished vizzes. So just pick a few and try and focus on those. I'd say definitely challenge yourself and apply what you learn. So perhaps if you do something like a technical challenge, like a Workout Wednesday, and you learn a new technique, try and apply that, what you've learned in a new visualization. So it could be you take that technique and apply it in a Viz for Social Good viz. That really, I think that really helps to solidify your learning, and just putting that learning into practice is really valuable. Definitely viz what you love. So don't pick projects that don't interest you. Find things that you're interested in. So like I said, if you're a music person, visualize data about your favorite artists. Don't force yourself to visualize topics that you don't enjoy, because it just won't be a fun experience. Absolutely share your work. When I first started out, I was terrified about sharing my work, but you've seen from the stories that I've shared, we've all benefited from sharing our work, whether that be on social media or with friends or however that may be. Definitely share your work. You never know what opportunities are going to come off the back of it. And remember that your voice is unique, so don't be afraid to share it. So perhaps you want to write a blog post about your experience, and someone else has written a blog post about the same project they participated in. That shouldn't stop you from sharing your voice. Your approach and your experiences will be different, and there's definitely a place for them. And lastly, if someone's inspired you, just let them know. I think sometimes we, as you've seen in Victor's example, we lean on lots of different people, and when we forget to thank them. So if you've benefited from someone's presentation or from a blog post, or you've learned something from somebody through a video, just reach out and let them know. It means a lot, and it's really nice to hear that from somebody else. And don't be afraid to ask for help. The community is here to help you. So thank you, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed listening to my presentation today. I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Thank you.
You can hear me? Yes, I hope so.
Yeah.
I really like, we have never met in person, but yeah, we all know you. And I really like the way you always celebrate your peers' work. So it's not about yourself, it's always about everyone else. And I think that support is so valuable for people to feel empowered to try new things. So thank you very much for that. I wanted to say that now that I have the chance.
I wanted
to ask you, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I thought it was important today to showcase the journey of others, because both Victor and Zainab's journeys are completely different to mine. And and although they've come at it from different places, we've all ended in the same spot. We're all participating in the same projects. I think we have common goals that we want to improve our skills and support others in the process as well.
I also think this is a part of the magic of the database communities, that there is a mix of people that it just makes it so interesting. People with different backgrounds, with different skills. It's fantastic. I wanted to ask you a question, if I can.
Sure.
So if you started all over again, what would you do differently, or which things wouldn't do? I've been asking this question to myself lately, and I would like to ask you, what do you?
Yeah, so I mean, I would definitely get started sooner. So as I mentioned before, I was afraid to share my work, and I kind of sat on the fence for a very long time before I actually shared anything. So I'd definitely jump in sooner and share my work sooner. I think I'd also try and do a more varied variety of projects. I think when I started, there were a lot less projects when I got started in the community. So at that time, I think we had Makeover Monday, and that was pretty much it. So now there's so many more opportunities to get involved and do different things. So I'd definitely vary that because I think there's things that would interest me more than some of the projects I was doing back then, which that was all that was available. I would be visualizing data on some very weird and wonderful topics, but they weren't necessarily anything that was important to me. So I definitely visualize things that I'm more passionate about.
Thank you. What is people nowadays sharing their work? Because I think like 10 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, it was very obvious. Everyone was sharing in Twitter. Twitter was the community. Is it still nowadays? Are there other places? What's happening there?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people maybe left Twitter. They're still there. People are still sharing their work, but I'm seeing more people share their work on LinkedIn now as well. And I think you get a completely different audience over on LinkedIn. So I'd say if you're on Twitter, share it there. But if not, try out LinkedIn and see how you go.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone else has questions for Sarah.
Actually, I do have a question, Sarah. That first of all, amazing. That was such a great presentation. There's so much about this for social good early days that I learned I didn't even know about. So thanks for sharing that, and amazing that you recognize other volunteers, because that's what this is all about. My question was, you've been in using Tableau and been in the data visualization space for a while. I wanted to get your thoughts on data visualization versus storytelling, and some of the trends that you've seen over the years as it relates to storytelling.
It's a good question. So I think sometimes in this world we get particularly because some of us work in business and we build up business dashboards, it's very difficult to tell a story through those dashboards. And then I think we try to, but we don't do it very well, or we end up with a less effective visual as a result. So I think I personally like to see those two things as two separate opportunities. And that's where I think these projects can come in, because we can really exercise those skills that we don't have the opportunity to exercise at work. Now, I'm a big follower of, I mentioned her a couple of times, but Cole Nussbaumer-Knaflic and the work that she's done with storytelling with data. And I think something I've asked her, because she's a real advocate, obviously, for storytelling with data, and it is very difficult to do that through business dashboards. And I don't think that's their intended purpose. So I think, it's projects like this and where we can just flex different muscles and different ways of showcasing data that we can really tell those stories. And another big aspect of it is how you present those stories as well. So it's not just what you build and showcase on the page, but also how you can talk about data and tell those stories verbally.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
I have a question, Sarah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for your presentation. But what intrigued me was when you mentioned Victor never used Tableau desktop. I mean, what tools are there? It's free for the community to download and work with, so we can benefit with if we don't have Tableau or we don't have those visualization tools. Are those available for us to download, and how easy to use them and learn them, so we can develop the whatever project we're working on? And thank you.
Yeah, so there's a lot of tools out there. So I would say, so Tableau Public has a free version that you can use, which is very, very, very similar to the version you'd get with Tableau Desktop. The only difference is that it has limited data connections. But for projects like this, where you're just connecting to CSVs or Excel files, you'll be absolutely fine. But there's also some free tools out there, things like Flourish and Data Wrapper. They're very, very easy to pick up and use, and they have free versions. So as long as you're not using it at the enterprise level, if you just want to build out some charts, I would absolutely recommend checking those out. And then there's obviously the coding tools. So if you want to get more involved in coding, there's things like D3, JavaScript, which obviously have a much more steeper learning curve, but they're effectively free as well. Hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you. Yeah.
Do we have any other questions from the participants or from the team?
I think I see something in the chat. How do you decide which graph is the best for the particular data? That's from Tiffany Stone.
It's a tough question. I think I try and lean on tools like the visual vocabulary. So the visual vocabulary is something that's developed by the Financial Times, but it was also recreated by Andy Kriebel. You can find that on Tableau Public, or just search visual vocabulary and you'll find the original, which is very, very similar. But these tools really show, if you're dealing with different visualization challenges, what graphs would work effectively in those scenarios. So perhaps you want to show correlation, and it will give you a selection of charts that are best for showing correlation. So I try and lean on those tools, and that helps me to be more creative as well. So I think sometimes I'm victim to just kind of leaning on bar charts all the time. It can be like very boring bar charts, whereas these frameworks can really help expand your horizons and give you other ideas for ways of visualizing that data effectively. So I'd definitely recommend checking out tools like that can help give you alternative chart types to try.
Anything else?
Yes, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say, Sarah, thank you for learning about my journey and for sharing it. Yeah, I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you for the amazing presentation. I never thought that the story of Peaceful Social Good was so big, and I really love the connection that you can build making this type of visualization. So thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, Victor. It must have been really weird, me talking about you with you on the call, but I appreciate you sharing all that information in advance of this. But I think you have a really inspiring journey. I mean, considering it's only been 6 months as well, you've already achieved so much in that time. So I'm sure that your journey will inspire others to get involved too.
I hope.
Is there anything else anyone would like to ask? It's now or never. Okay, I think then we are good to move on. Thank you again, Sarah.
Thank
for being
you,
here
and
today.
thank you for putting this together, and good luck with the rest of the conference today.
Thanks a lot. So if you can stop sharing, I will start sharing. I'm also wondering if we want to stop recording and start recording a new session so that we can then put like some bits together when we share it and not like 6 hours.
That's a
Okay,
good
let
idea.
me, yeah, so again, you're gonna, okay, stop recording.